Hello everybody and welcome back to the Fortress of Solitude. Today we're going to be checking out Superman issue 10 by Joshua Williamson and Bruno Redondo. Superman takes a trip to the Wild West as he and Marilyn Moonlight are blasted back in time by Grafton Farm, sent to the metropolis when it was a small, dusty town. Superman keeps on Supermaning as he and Moonlight come across a massacred wagon colony, all killed by modern-looking weapons, and Superman figures out pretty quick whose work this is. Williamson taps Superman's often forgotten 70s history as the one behind the shooting is Tobias Manning, better known to the dozens who actually know him as Terror Man, an old school Superman villain who is like a gunslinger. He was in a couple of episodes of the animated Justice League series, but not many people would know who this guy is, and we learn he has a time travel device and has been hiding out in the Old West so he can enjoy some good old poker and casual murder without someone like Superman ruining his fun. Williamson's entire run has been dotted with these neat little pulls from Superman's 80-year history, things like villains like Terror Man, or bringing back different colors of kryptonite other than red or green, or just a cool looking costume he wore like once in the animated series or in a comic from 20 years ago. It all adds up and adds to this greater history that's implied in all of these sorts of things, and we see adventures like the cartoons and comics all happened at some point in Superman's history, and I like that there's that connective tissue that brings them all together. Superman ends up getting his powers back in the nick of time as Terror Man challenges him to a duel and of course cheats, putting the townspeople in jeopardy so he can escape into the time stream. Luckily, Marilyn Moonlight is there to aid Superman and apprehend the villain, and it leads to a really neat revelation as Moonlight showing up at that point is actually what inspires the younger Marilyn, who was a barmaid at Bibbo's saloon that Terror Man was at, to become a hero. Williamson also shares little bits of her history, and we find out that she is what inspired the name Metropolis and what the city is named after, and she got a happy ending, dying of old age surrounded by family, something that you never really see in comic books with superheroes. Usually they are having tragic endings, or they just kind of fade away or just die horrible, gruesome deaths. They never really get to that happy ending, and I like that Marilyn actually got that. However, we learned that was kind of short-lived, as a few decades later she gets brought back to life by someone who last issue kind of implied was Lex Luthor. Again, we don't really know exactly why Lex brought her back, but it definitely has something to do with Spirit of Metropolis, which is what Marilyn went by, and I guess he wanted to bring that soul of Metropolis back to life to either team up with or somehow try to control, to manipulate them to make himself seem like more of a hero. I'm very interested to see what Williamson has in store for that story of Lex as a hero in his younger years and what he was going through with all these different experiments like the Chained and now Marilyn Moonlight, and what was it all leading to and what was his end game. It's all really interesting stuff. The sequence with Marilyn talking about her life after Superman left and how she became the hero that she inspired herself to be seems like Williamson is kind of testing the waters to see if we want more Marilyn Moonlight, since he teased a couple of run-ins with Grafton Farm's mother, her riding this giant metal slug looking tank. Looked really cool, and I'd love to see more of that sort of stuff. And it's really strange that we haven't had the push we usually get with new characters like we have with characters like Punchline, whereas I think that a character like Marilyn Moonlight has a lot more gas in the tank for stories because she's from a completely different era, and it would give us the DC Western era back, since we haven't had that era in so long, since like the last Jonah Hex book, the Ginny Hex book that Brian Michael Bendis was doing. So it would be cool if we got even just backups in this book or in Action Comics that detailed Marilyn Moonlight's adventures in the Wild West, fighting Grafton Farm's mother and what other villains they have that might appear. And again, you can just draw all these really cool villains from the Western books that DC did for a time. We saw stuff like Nighthawk and Cinnamon, we could have Batlash, we could have Jonah Hex appear, all these great characters who are all just kind of lost at the moment, and it'd be a great avenue to bring all those characters back with a new character in the forefront. So hopefully we do get something with her at some point, since she's a really interesting character and a lot more interesting than some of the more recent newer characters. I'm invested in her story and want to learn a lot more about it. Superman's time in the Old West comes to an end with the promise to help Marilyn and give her the peace she deserves, and Superman returns to his own time only to be blindsided by the Lex Luthor Revenge Squad, led by Graft, who actually offers Superman a place on the team to finally put an end to Lex Luthor. What's interesting about this team is there is the usual team members we've seen. We've seen Graft, Farm, there's the Chained, and we see someone who is actually wearing one of Lex Luthor's old war suits. We don't actually see who they are with their faces obscured, and I'm guessing that's going to be the big reveal next issue, but if I had to make a crazy guess on who it is, I'm betting it's going to be Letitia Luthor, since she just happened to suddenly appear back on the scene. She's not very happy with Lex giving her company to an alien like Superman, and she hates what her son has become, you know, the more heroic Lex that he keeps claiming he is and keeps acting like he is, and she has made it known that she does not like that side of him. So I could definitely see her doing this as a sort of way to teach him a lesson and to try and right the wrong that is him becoming a hero and trying to make him become a villain again. Makes more sense as well, because at the moment she hasn't really done all that much in the book besides kind of just stand in the background and kind of snipe at her son and Superman and Lois every now and then, and we haven't actually seen what she is there for. She keeps saying she's there to talk with the board about turning Supercorp back over to Lex, but we don't actually get to see that part of the story, so I'm betting she is this person in the war suit. Even if it's not her, I'm looking forward to seeing what Williamson has in store for us, since apart from her, I can't really think of anyone else it could be. Bruno Redondo continues his time on the book and has a lot of fun with the Western setting. You could tell he was really excited about doing this stuff, since he treats us to some great looking vistas covered in lovely orange sunsets with Superman and Marilyn Moonlight riding their horses against the silhouette of the sun and everything. It just looks fantastic. Clark's cowboy outfit I like for a number of reasons. The first one being that it's just so simple. It's just like a simple, you know, shirt with, you know, the waistcoat and just pants, and he's got gloves and he covers it with a red poncho. It's all just very simple and very mild mannered and low profile, very befitting for someone who's trying to not stick out and just sort of be, you know, Clark Kent but in the Western world, and you know, he doesn't draw someone's eye, and it's very, very cool, and it's a great stark contrast to Terror Man's outfit, which is very loud, very bright colors, and it looks awful. Like that's the whole point of the costume, because it's something he would have designed himself, so it's like just a mismatch of colors. He's got this great green robe, cowboy hat, and these two laser guns, and it just looks terrible, and it's a lot better than his old costume, which we see very briefly in some flashback artwork, but I like that it's a complete opposite to Superman's, where his is very low profile and Terror Man's is just out there and you have to look at it, and it's great. It's a great sort of dichotomy between the two. Williamson's Wild West adventure with Superman was a real fun time, and it's a shame it's a one and done issue, but the journey gave us a cool return of a Superman villain of old, some little bits of character development for Marilyn Moonlight, and ended with a big cliffhanger for next issue. It's everything you could have want in a superhero comic, and I'm going to give it a 9.5 out of 10. And I think it's a great pairing with this week's Superman Lost issue 10, since that issue is very heavy on themes and drama and everything, and this one's a bit more of your classic action-packed Superman superhero adventure. So if you read both of them back to back, you can actually get a really nice feel of Superman's overall character and just how many different genres you can put this character in, and how really awesome he is as a character. And I definitely recommend you read both of them back to back. In either way, you could read this one first, you could read Superman Lost first. I cannot recommend them both enough.